because nobody's coming to save you. I don't care what situation you're in. Nobody. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what your spiritual path is. No, nothing. I'm going to say this. Any spiritual path worth following is going to tell you that you're the one that's going to save yourself.
Welcome to the Awaken the Awesome podcast with your host, Olivier D. This is Awaken the Awesome, a podcast bringing a down-to-earth approach to personal growth. On this show, we're helping individuals just like you learn about tapping into their incredible potential through insightful interviews and inspiring lessons. Our mission is to encourage you to always keep pushing towards achieving your dreams and to stay awesome along the way. Hello again, Awesome Tribe, and welcome back to another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast. One of the things I really feel a lot of us are really struggling with these past few years is the fact that we do not take the necessary time to really, and I mean really, get to know and appreciate ourselves. Self-love has really become a buzzword as of late, and in the grand scheme of things, as is often the case, I realize a lot of people simply toss it around because it sounds nice. That's unfortunate. If people truly realize how much power lies in harnessing the beauties as well as imperfections that make up the sum of their wonderful being, they would probably spend a bit more time catering to that. I say this wholeheartedly because I am witnessing a lot of people I care about sluggishly dragging their feet in the sand when it comes to their journey, simply because they're being admittedly, and I know this, they're being weighed down by other people's opinions of them. And for that, I really call foul. Fortunately, today's guest is a person whom I've long admired for her deep-rooted sense of self-worth, undeniable personal truth, and unapologetic commitment to show up to the world as her own authentic self. Clara Luce Lafond takes no prisoners on that front. Whether you follow her on social media or have the chance to share a conversation with her offline, there's no questioning her strong conviction that we have a duty to embrace our greatness on all facets, what she calls the light and the dark, if we are to live our lives to the fullest. And if such a conviction should for some reason occasionally rub others' sensibilities the wrong way, well, tough shit. This conversation is not your typical exchange. Clara and I do dive into certain concepts of spirituality, energy, and personal truth that might leave some of you scratching your heads a bit. But as always, I invite you to keep an open mind, both of heart and empathy, as some of the topics we discuss are worth their weight in perspective. Also, I'd like to ask for your kind indulgence as today's recording suffered some technical difficulties, which resulted in some choppy audio in certain parts. But, as always, out of respect for the guest's generous time and availability, I chose to keep the editing to a minimum in order to preserve as much of Clara's powerful message as possible. So let's get into this. Awaken the Awesome, episode 178 with Clara Luce Lafond. Here we go. I can't put it any simpler. I have to open this up with a lot of heart, a lot of honesty, and a lot of joy, because for those of you guys listening in who have been with us since day one, you guys know that we have a few OGs. What do we call the top performers of our podcast guests? People who've been there, people who believed in us when this podcast was just on its heyday, just in its infancy, and people who didn't know us from wits or whatever, but they said sure, I'll be on your podcast. And sometimes you're intimidated. It's like, hey, what you do, and would you be on my little podcast? And for some reason, these people just happen not only to become incredible supporters and immensely, incredible people that we get to know, not just on a social media, but on an individual personal level. These people have become friends and people have stuck by us, through the laughs and, just the WhatsApps and the connections and just giving us all the great energy. It's only been in return that we showed the same mutual respect. Clara, I know that, we've been having to do this for a long time, but you know what? I just want to say thank you, for being such a supporter, for being such a warm and, generous person, such a friendly face, such a delightful, sometimes, ferociously biting, some of your posts, but it's all in good fun. But I want to celebrate you, for everything that you do, for everything that you share, not just for the culture, but just as a person, for just who you are and all the positivity and greatness that you share, both on and offline. So thank you for being you, and thank you for being back on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you back, man.
Oli, thank you so much. I am so happy and excited to be here. You don't even know. It's always a good vibe to just talk with you and just, bounce around these ideas and thoughts that I know we both have bubbling inside. knowing
It's
how we both
precious.
react. Exactly. Knowing how we both react to each other's posts and whatever. I love it. I love our interaction on social media. I love, the bond we've developed, just through you doing this whole movement, this whole, I don't know what you call it, but I call it a movement, and it's so important. It's
Wow.
necessary. It is that we have these conversations, that we have these spaces where we can be authentic, where we can say things as they are, as truthfully, as lovingly, and maybe as you said, like as cutting, as because I believe that when we go to, deep truth telling, that's how we heal. We don't heal by lying to each other, by, disguising things and saying, oh, it could be this or it could be that, and sugarcoating. I don't believe in that. I believe in just, you know what? This is what it is and this is what it's not, and how are we going to move through it? And we discuss for all of us to get to like a general and, wise space of understanding that benefits everybody. And I
We
think
need that.
that's what we lack a lot of in many communities. So that's what I'm really here for. So
Appreciate
thank
you,
you for
man.
having me.
Appreciate it. But it's so true. It's something that we need. And, this is why I really wanted to reach out to you, because one of the things that really has been, because I talked a few episodes about, taking a long hiatus. And for that, we talked a little bit about this off the air, is the fact that, people, in my opinion, need to no, not that they need. It's just that I have realized, just through my own observation, that, you, with everything going on, pandemic be damned, with all the distraction and the noise and the fear and the insecurities and everything, that a lot of people have not, even with this isolation, even with the confinement and stuff, a lot of people have not taken the necessary time to look within and spend some much needed and necessary time with themselves. And I've realized that for some people, it is a truly scary thing. For some people, it's something that they've never heard about. It's something that, they fail to do, either out of ignorance, either out of fear, either out of, pure neglect. But talking to someone like you, who is so comfortable in herself, in her spirit, in her mind, in her expression, in both physical and emotional and spiritual, why is it so complicated, so hard, or so fearful for people to just take 2 seconds and feel comfortable with themselves? Where would you think that insecurity or fear comes from?
I'm going to speak honestly from my personal experience and also observation of others. I'm very upfront about my use of psychedelics. And one of my first experiences with magic mushrooms, as they call it, taught me this lesson. As many of us may know and understand, a lot of us are afraid of our darkness. But would you believe that so many of us are terrified, and I'm telling you, absolutely terrified of our light? Like we think that, oh yes, we think that the shit we hide in the darkness, the things that we don't face, that we don't want to accept, that we don't want to embrace, that we don't want to face, you think that is scary? Wait till you see the things that's waiting for you, shining in the light of what God has saved for you, of what your destiny has saved for you, of what your whole lineage of what you come from and what you are built from has left for you. That is some truly frightening stuff. But, we're so consumed and so sold on the idea of, darkness is this and darkness is that and whatever. And there's this favorite quote, even though I never memorized it, but I always remember the beginning where it says, it's not that our greatest fear is not our darkness, but it is our light. And I remember hearing it from the movie. Was it something Carter, Coach Carter?
Coach Carter. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And they gave that whole speech, and that speech, like to this day, it speaks to me. I don't know it by heart, but to this day, it speaks to me. And it always, translates the idea of how much so many of us are afraid of our light. The darkness is one thing, but believe me, the light is a whole nother thing, because you can't hold back. There's nothing to hide. You have to be seen full blown. You have to be felt and received full blown. And to expose yourself that way, for everyone and everything to see you, to perceive you, to receive you on different levels, it's really intense and it's really scary. The dark, nobody sees you. When you're in the shadow, nobody sees you. But when you're in the light,
everybody sees you. You stand out in your own light.
Everything sees you on every level, on every platform, on every frequency, every dimension. Everything sees you. So one thing that I learned from my personal experience, my personal spiritual journey, is like, the brighter the light, the deeper the darkness.
Do you believe, for the people listening to us, does it have to suck before it gets better? Do you have to go through that pain? Do you have to go through that trauma? Do you have to go through the muck? Do you have to go through the turmoil to understand the beauty within?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I know it sucks to say it. I know it sucks to admit it. I know it sucks to acknowledge it, but yes, because truthfully, in all honesty, in hindsight right now, you're saying, oh, I'm going through all this muck and I don't want to go through it. I don't want to feel it. I would appreciate it, if I was going through it. But would you really? Would you really? If you had no other experience, if you had no other knowledge of life and existence and, what it is to be human, the different levels that there are to this, how much would you really deeply appreciate, your experience? And I say this especially during times that we're living in. I do believe that at some point in time before, maybe these traumatic lessons and experiences weren't, brutally necessary, because many of us were connected to something deeper and greater. We were living differently, we were existing differently. But now in our time, and at the frequency that we're at, our greatest teacher is pain. Our greatest teacher, is suffering, as sad and miserable or tragic as that may sound, but that's just the truth of it. That's the frequency that we are all vibrating at. And the more more individuals we have that are willing to face those layers, willing to face those dimensions of themselves for their own lineage, because a lot of us may not know this, but we have a few select people, in each lineage that they're here to elevate the ancestry. They're here to elevate the lineage. So they have particular work to do, particular energy to invest. So the more these people are able to understand and do and realize, then the better it is for humanity collectively. The more we are able to elevate ourselves individually and then elevate ourselves ancestrally, the more we elevate humanity in general.
Wow.
It's collective.
It's a great thing you talked about, taking 2 seconds to, understand that, you might be going through some tough times. And yes, you may have your fair share of trauma and personal, let's call it baggage, to deal with. But is it possible, and I'm really saying this, I might get some flack for this, is it possible that a lot of us are using our past or our darkness or our struggles as an excuse to not have to, own up to the fact that, no, we're actually a lot greater than we believe. We're a lot greater than we think. And you talked about that fear of our own spotlight, of our own light. Because some people would not wake up 2 seconds and believe no, I can't possibly be that extraordinary. I can't possibly be, that amazing. But you are. But it takes
absolutely. Absolutely. We are absolutely terrified of that aspect of ourselves, of embracing the greatness. Because you know what? Once you embrace that greatness, you're afraid of what comes next. You're afraid of, what else am I supposed to do that's super great? What else am I supposed to provide? What else am I supposed to do? But that's the thing. When you are just greatness, when you're not trying to pretend, when you're not trying to borrow somebody else's swag or somebody else's like. You're just embodying your own. You ain't got to worry about what you're gonna get. You ain't gotta worry about your source. You ain't gotta worry about your inspiration because that shit is endless. I think that as humans, we live already in a how I say this in a lifestyle that's not suitable for us, like this whole 9 to 5 and city life, and all these toxins and whatever it is that we're ingesting in our lives. It's not what's fit for us. Some people are more resilient to it, some are not. And that's where a lot of us are struggling. So I feel like it's important, especially now, where I feel like we're in a timeline or in a lifetime or whatever people would call it of remembrance, of awakening. Like, I feel like humanity went through a period of we needed to forget. Now we're in a period of we need to remember. So a lot of people are coming into this remembrance, into this awakening, as we call it. And it's happening at different levels, at different times for everybody. But believe you, it's happening, and more people are coming into it. And I hope more people, are trusting and secure and are paying attention and looking out for the appropriate signs and, the appropriate teachers for you, where you're at your level, for your path and all that, because it's an amazing journey. It's an amazing path. It's an amazing remembrance. And, it can go differently for many people. But again, this is your life. Take your time with it. Feel for it. You got to give yourself time to appreciate yourself, to appreciate your life, to appreciate your journey, things that you're learning, even if they're painful, even if they're blissful. There is so much to gain from each experience. So whatever it is that you're going through, I hope that you just take it all in stride and remember that, there is a fucking rainbow at the end of this tunnel, and just hold on. Just hold on and keep, aligning yourself for what is for your greatest intent, I could say.
Man. See, I feel like you speak with such fierce truth, because I feel it, because you know it, you felt it, you've experienced it, and this is something these are steps that you've walked through. And this is the reason why I take a lot of pride not bringing on quote unquote gurus onto this program, because it's mostly people like, down to earth people need to understand that, what? This is a person just like you, whether here or in Iceland or in Haiti or in Canada. You guys need to understand that these are real human experiences that are reigning true. Yes. And I want to bring it home for some people. You know why? Because I'm just hearing you talk about you need to be able to celebrate yourself. You need to be able to accept yourself, warts and all, and understand that you are walking your own lane. And, we talk a lot about self-confidence. We talk a lot about worth. We talk a lot about, just standing in your own greatness. And for some reason, while you were talking, I'm having two individuals in my head, two different sides of personal greatness, if you will. I'm thinking of like P. Diddy, who I really enjoy. Like, you cannot take that away from the guy, from Absolutely. What he's done in terms of just taking over the industry.
For the culture,
For the culture. This guy cannot be set aside in the conversation. Absolutely. I'm like, I admire him. Like, I really do. Like, his intensity. He's all like, let's go get it. Like, he's ferocious. And that's why I consider Diddy like, someone I admire in that sense. And there are people like, again, talking about energy, but who are in their own greatness. Like, if you take someone like Kanye rubs me the wrong way. Okay. I don't know why. He's got his own, but some people would call him cocky. Some people will call him whatever, but even with that flack, he still does it. He's still walking in his own lane. He's still doing his own thing. See, That's why people need to understand that, whatever guides your compass and wherever you stand in your own greatness, accept it, live it, and walk with it. That's what people need to understand. That's what you're trying to get across, because people need to understand you are you. You can take examples, you can take inspiration, which is good. You can take support and advice, but you need to walk in your own lane.
At the end of the day, you can only be yourself. You don't know who these other people are. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know their life story. You only got yourself.
You don't.
So what you gonna do? What are you gonna tell? Whose life story are you gonna tell? Is it gonna be yours and something that's made up? Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And you took some very deep and extreme examples, and I really like it, because those are very controversial personalities, I could say, in the culture. and maybe in some dark and twisted ways the world did adjust, but hey, in a lot of accepting and I guess compassionate ways, the world did adjust. So yeah.
But in your own case, again, why? Because I really wanted to bring this question out into the open for most people, because a lot of us don't speak too much about that. But yes, as much as you say you want to sprout, no fucks given, a lot of people fall into the insecurity of caring way too much about other people's opinion. And that's what shatters dreams. That's what shatters ambitions. That's why, people second guess themselves, because they spend way too much. Because I'll take the example, I grew up in Haiti, just being nice little boy, do exactly what mom wants, do exactly what dad wants, until one day, even into my adulthood, coming in here, coming to Canada, and just doing my own life. And I was still calling home, telling mom, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. What do you think? But wait a second, whose life is it? Like whose life is it? I'm just saying. Like whose name is on the tuition bill? Like seriously, whose name is on the tuition bill? This is your college tuition. Like why do you care? Why do you care? But a lot of us I'm 40 now. All right. Like how many of us give so much credence to what other people think? And so many people are shooting ourselves in the foot. Is there a way to break away from that, do you think?
I think there is absolutely a way to break away from that. It's just going to take a lot of character, a lot of mental, emotional, spiritual, even fucking physical strength to do it. It all depends on how deep, you're tied into your family. And it's different for everybody. Like some people are really tight knit and like they're in everybody's business and all the time. It's really intense. And some people, it's not so much. It's around the holidays. It's around this. It's around that, etc. Whatever. And it's really gonna depend on you and your comfort level and what you deem acceptable, because you're the one dealing with your family. You're the one dealing with your life. And you're the one who knows what you can take, what you can endure. Some people cannot completely cut off, their extremely toxic members. Maybe they live with them, maybe they depend on them, and it's really hard. But all I can say to maybe those people who are in those situations is that hold on and that work in a way and, make choices for your life where you can get out of that situation where you don't have to depend on these people, where you have to be and exist in the same spaces as these people, because you don't. I mean, at the end of the day, your parents are your parents, or, your family is your family, but once you grow up and you become, an adult, you don't have to rely on anybody, rely on yourself. So do what you need to do, to take care of you. And I feel like a lot of us are not taught that, are not offered that as an option or as a point of view in life, because we're always told family is family and this and that, etc. But sometimes family is really extremely toxic. So are you seriously asking
Say that again.
Extremely, seriously, and tragically and deathly toxic. So are you asking for, these individuals who I'm speaking for myself, who don't have my mental or emotional, spiritual fortitude or whatever. These people are broken, they're beat down, they're hurt, they're going through things. Like I can't ask them to muster that strength to stand up against their family, etc. But I'm gonna ask you to muster some type of courage, because at the end of the day, this is something that you have to do for yourself. You got to get out for yourself first, before you can get anybody else out. So I'm going to ask you to find that strength, to find that courage for yourself. Even if it's the size of a mustard seed, I'm going to ask you to dig for it, because you need it. Because nobody's coming to save you. I don't care what situation you're in. Nobody. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what your spiritual path is. No, nothing. I'm going to say this. Any spiritual path worth following is going to tell you that you're the one that's going to save yourself. And maybe you might save some other people who are willing to believe
along the way.
Exactly. But you're going to save yourself. So you better believe in yourself. You better believe in your own strength, in your own courage, in the own God-given sense that you were given to get yourself out of whatever it is that you are in, because nobody's coming to save you. And even if somebody were to come to save you, it's going to be for a fraction of a second. They're not going to hear for a lifetime, because what you're here for is for yourself. You're not here to be accomplished, to be, fulfilled by somebody else. You're here to be accomplished and fulfilled for yourself. For yourself. It's great when you have somebody by your side that can, add to it and boost it and make that shit, fucking global and viral, whatever. But first of all, it's got to be you. You got to be the juice. You got to be the plug. You got to be the source, regardless of your sex and whatever. Because when greatness means greatness, of course we can tell them the truth.
There's a dirty little secret that most people don't understand in this entire, building yourself up thing. It is very selfish. I think it is very selfish of you to expect other people to make your BS and your priorities theirs. What I mean by that is that you're going through your muck, you're going through your problems. Whoa, it's me and everything. It's like, look at me. It's like, oh my God, I'm going through all this, but whose problem is it? I feel bad for you. I love you. I care about you. Yeah, all right. But like you said, we're not going to stick around for years on end waiting for you to handle your own problems.
Yeah. And that's why I don't do it for other people, nor do I expect them to do it for me. Because when I go through my shit, I go through it. I go through it. And I'm not even telling people I'm going through it. If you're really close to me and, we talk a lot, we have a very tight relationship, which I don't have with many people where I talk to them every day. Mm-hmm. If at some point I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it, I'm going to let you know. I'm like, hey, I'm going through some stuff right now. I'm going to isolate, and don't worry if you don't hear from me. I'm home. I'm safe. Nothing is wrong. I'm going to let you know. But if I don't have that type of relationship with you, I owe nobody nothing. I don't care. I don't owe you anything. My mental health, I don't owe anybody anything. I don't. Nobody owes anybody anything unless, they hold that space, that, that relevancy in your life. And that's for you to determine with the, the relationships and interactions that you have in your life. So mine is very, limited and very few people. So it's very, guarded and limited. So not a lot of people know what I'm doing when I'm doing it or how I'm doing it and whatever. And I like it that way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important Exactly. I think it's important for people to remember that, when you're going through things real things, really deep, emotional, transformational things, stop letting, your acquaintances know what you're going through. Stop letting people you talk to, or, you only see when it's time to drink and, turn up and whatever. Those are not your people. Those are not your friends. Those are not people who are going to be there for you, ride or die, etc. Some might be, but you've never taken it there with them. So stop spreading yourself, so much. Honestly, I've gone as far as...
You mean I can actually isolate myself from people and that's okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. I've gone as far as isolating myself and not saying anything and waiting to see who checks up on me. Some people might say it's toxic, it's manipulative or whatever. Maybe it is. However, I've done it in relationships for myself, and it helped me realize I was watering them plants. Sometimes we don't realize that we are nurturing relationships that are completely one-sided. The person could not care less about it. But here you are, nurturing, caring, paying attention to the relationship, and just not realizing that the person on the other end just does not care or just does not know.
And throwing a fit at yourself internally because there's no reciprocity.
That's your fault. Because, you should be, paying attention. It's okay. You can throw a slight little fit. I'm not throwing a fit at myself for 24 hours over something like that. Hell no. The minute I recognize it, I have an hour tops to be mad at myself. And then I'm back to being, it's okay. This is what I tell myself now. This is somewhere my energy could not have been received at capacity. Whoosh. And I'm good with it. Yeah, I'm good with it. Because it's true. We fail to understand it and realize it. Some of us have greater is it capacity, or maybe it's capacity? Maybe it's emotional, energetic capacity, whatever it is. Some of us have greater capacity, have a greater bandwidth than other people, you know? Some people are lakes, some people are puddles, some people are oceans, some people are galaxies, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It all depends on how deeply such and such individual, has met themselves, has, expanded themselves, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes I've been in spaces where I felt like I was too small, like I could not receive this person, like I could not understand this person. I could see their greatness, I could see their life, but I knew I wasn't ready to receive it, to, embody it and be okay with it. And then
that takes a lot of humility.
But that's life, because guess what? You don't show up ready for everything in life. Sometimes you show up to some lessons you were not ready. You didn't know that was going to show up. You didn't know, the people were going to be that way. Like, you just don't know. Life is one big surprise, one big journey, one big adventure that I constantly have to remind myself because of
all the
anxiety.
time.
But, it's when you really, break it down and take your time, sometimes it's exciting, it's worth it. Yes, it gives you extreme anxiety and whatever, but when you stay connected to yourself and to your true essence and to who you really are, and, the work that you put into yourself, the sacrifices that you make, the choices that have led you to these better and more stable results, I could say, it's worth it. It's worth all the drama. It's worth all the stress. It's worth all the turmoil. I'm going to take one example from from my personal journey in voodoo, where things were really rough for myself personally and my family. I can say my spiritual family. And we were sitting with spirit. The Loa was there. And he was listening to us, saying what we're going through and how we're feeling. And all of us were speaking, all of us were not speaking. Like, the spirit could feel, all the turmoil that was going on. And all it said is that right now, what you're going through is you can either go through the path of spirit or the path of God, or you can take matters into your own hands and go your own way. And somehow I didn't like the alternative. So you always have to weigh, the pros and the cons. And at the time, the message was delivered like that. I'm like, you know what? That's the moment I understood the difference between destiny and free will. We all have free will. We all have free will. Free will is what you decide, what you choose to do with yourself, with your life, with your energy, whatever it is that, that you are here. That's you. But your destiny happens when you, have that awakening and you come into the understanding that, hey, I am much more than this person, this personality that I have incarnated into in this life. There's X, Y, Z, and whatever that's been done before me and handed down to me, and whatever. And some of it was taken care of, some of it was not. And somehow it comes down to you that this is your responsibility, and you have to awaken to all of that. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to a select few. And you have to awaken to all of that. And it's a lot. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Intense.
It's a lot. It's, and for a lot of people listening, they think it's probably all woo. And if you had asked me 5 or 6 years ago, it's like, yeah, it's like, affirmation, and then love yourself, and then spend more time with yourself. And then, no, you have everything you need to change your life. Just change your mindset, change your circle. I'm like, what we're talking about? Like, yeah, you're on some Jim Rohn, some Zig Ziglar stuff. But when you realize,
but they're not saying it for no reason, because they know something.
As weird as it sounds, having taken the time, speaking with people like you, and I'm always boiling down to this podcast. for all the people I've listened to, and this is why I always put it like, as the forefront, as basically the mission statement, connecting with real people, real stories, and realize that there are some underlying basic laws of the universe that have not changed. Everybody understands love. Everybody understands, being afraid. Everybody understands wanting to do more for yourself. Everybody understands pain, not feeling as if you're just here running a hamster wheel.
Yep.
Everybody understands that. And just listening to you saying this, people need to just take 2 seconds to accept the fact that, you know what? You are that incredible. You are
Absolutely.
that amazing. And the second you can actually flip the switch and actually just even be open to the idea of, am I really that awesome? Yes, you are. And
You are.
like, what does that mean? Well, just try something out. Just like lean into it, walk into it, and realize what you can actually accomplish. And there's no crazy ideas. And that's why I want to piggyback on what you were saying. That, you know what? The way I boil it down for myself, there are no wrong choices, save for, hurting someone else, stealing from someone else, or, taking someone's life. But, there are no wrong choices or decisions, only those you can live with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always say this. Like me, my choices, I can sleep at night. I have to be able to sleep at night with my choices. That's it. Like, I'm not saying that I'm above or below or anything, but at the end of the day, whatever I decide to do, I have to be able to sleep with it. The minute I'm not able to sleep with it, I know I was in the wrong. I know that I was guilty and whatever, and that's going to just mess with me. But as the minute I'm okay with it, it's over. It's over. I'm not even going to think about it.
You have to be okay. And, the only way if you're okay with it, you know what? We said this off the air. You have to know where you stand. You have to define your script. What does make you, you? What are your values? What are the things that... You have to know you.
Your principles, your values, your basics, your foundations. And for a long minute, I didn't understand what it meant. And I just sat with myself and thought about it until eventually it clicked in. And it's going to click in differently for everybody because I've heard that same message for different people, but I understood in that moment that it applies differently for people because discipline in my life is not going to be discipline in your life. It's not going to be discipline in your sister's life. It's not going to be discipline in my father's life. It's going to be different for everybody. And that's what makes, life so interesting and, exciting is that we each have our strengths and our weaknesses and we are able to recognize them and work on them and build upon them. But the problem that happens is that when we're not willing to look at ourselves honestly and truthfully and say, hey, this is my weakness. This is what I have to work on. This is where, I'm coming up short. And it's okay. Who the hell is perfect? Who the hell is perfect? Nobody's perfect. So why are you ashamed of any type of imperfection or shortcoming or whatever it is that you got?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're willing to admit it and just be like, hey, I don't know or I don't understand or whatever. And, you're not downplaying anything else. You're not, bad mouthing anything else. You're just coming with your own lack of understanding, if I could say it like that for lack of a better word. And you're seeking guidance. I think that a lot of us are seeking guidance and some of us go about it the wrong way. A lot of us, we show up with our ignorance and that's the one that shines through and we get received the wrong way. I've been a victim of that in the sense that I had people show up to my page and they said something and I reacted a certain way and somebody else reacted differently and they got a different reaction from that same person that, tried to trigger me. But at the same time, like, I understand how, the person responded, but at the same time, I don't understand this person coming at me on my space, on, my page, speaking any type of way and, being all crazy and whatnot and not just being respectful and just, asking questions and, just being respectful. Me, I'm very big on respect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can disagree on absolutely everything, but we do not disrespect each other. We do not insult each other. We do not, degrade each other. I'm good with, not agreeing, but disrespect.
Disagreement
never.
does not have to be a confrontation.
Absolutely not. Like, we don't, just because I disagree with you, I don't have to disrespect you. And I'm very big on that. So when people come at me crazy on social media like that, like, you bring out my crazy side where I'm like, don't talk to me like that. And that's just natural for anybody, you know? And it's, even when I react crazy, it still comes from a place of love, of me showing you love, of me showing you some type of, you know, understanding and compassion. Because first of all, I chose to respond. Because if I didn't really care about what you said at all, I'm like, you know what, whatever. I might have deleted you. I might have just not ignored you, whatever. But if I choose to respond, there's, you know, some type of, I'm trying to, you know, guide you towards a different type of understanding, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what it is. But I think definitely, there's definitely important to spend time with yourself, to, you know, to be alone, to be acquainted with yourself and all your sides, your light, your dark, your middle, you know, your balance and all that. And when the time comes to fully embrace relationships, you know, other interactions, because guess what? At some point in your journey, spending too much time with yourself is limiting. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help you expand. It doesn't help you evolve.
That's
so you
when you
do
need to
need
find
your
your tribe.
relationships. Exactly. You need your friends, you need your family, you need your lover, whatever it is, et cetera, your coworkers. I want to choose the type of energy and spaces that I get to be involved in. Again, I'm not saying that everybody has that, you know, ability to do it right now in their lives, but I believe at some point in your life you get to do it. If you make the appropriate choices, if you, you know, decide to grow, truly grow and evolve as you should, yeah, at some point you come into that position where you can choose. I want to be in this space. I want to involve myself with these energies and these folks and whatnot, etc. And you make your life exactly what it is that you want it to be. But you gotta learn the rules that have already been set.
And there, you know, one thing that a lot of people, well, this has been my experience. I'm not sure if it's been for you. It also takes, once you step over that threshold of being into your own greatness and learning to accept it. So of course, it's a daily process, but how do we work really hard not to, condescend or look at, you know, people who are still struggling, with making that next step? You know, how do we work on ourselves not to be judgmental, not to be condescending, but just to be accepting? Because acceptance is really hard, not just of oneself, but also of the other.
Honestly, it's going to be hard. I'm not going to lie. To me, it's hard. Like, sometimes I don't do it in a condescending way. So honestly, to me, it's more in a hurtful way when I have personally shared advice or energy where I feel like I could have helped you and you didn't, and I feel like you didn't apply any of the things that I said. Speak where you are heard. And that's a lesson I've had to learn very early on. Like, I have been in spaces for a very long time where when I was speaking or when I was expressing myself, I was not being heard. I was not being felt. I was not being received. Because either, you know, the capacity of my environment was restrained, or they couldn't meet me there, or they did not agree, or whatever it may be, you know. But I've always been the type of person where if something rubs me the wrong way, I'm going to say it rubs me the wrong way. And we're either going to, you know, address it or we're not. Especially if we're close. If we're close, we need to address it. If we don't address it, to me, that's serious. I don't, and I move away from that, you know. If we're not close, then whatever, you know. This is your life, and
it is what it is.
But if I'm close to you, no, that affects me differently.
We got to handle it.
Exactly. So I feel like it's the same for, you know, people who are in that type of situation. If they're really close to you, there's only so much that you can do, you know, honestly. And at the end of the day, I would say look out for yourself. Do what you can for the ones who are maybe not there yet, you know, and hope for the best. Because at the end of the day, that's all we can do, you know. And pray for you to have maybe more understanding, more patience, because it does get harder. I told a friend of mine that recently, and he's like, but it's hard at some point when you become so smart or so enlightened, you know, not be arrogant and whatever. So I'm like, yes, it does, but not necessarily for the reasons that you think. For me, it would become hard because I understand a lot of people don't want to grow. A lot of people don't want to evolve. A lot of people want to remain mediocre in in their habits, in their ways, etc. In their mindsets. And I can't do that. And if me telling you that I can't do that and that I'm above it and this is how I think and this is how I move and this is how I live, that makes you feel inferior, then that's on you.
That's not on me.
It's not, because I'm not going to downgrade the work that I want to do for myself, that the work that I want to do for my lifestyle, for my lineage, for my legacy, to adjust to you and your comfort level. That has nothing to do with me. Meet me where I'm at, like I'm showing you the fucking blueprint. Pay attention. I'm going through the ringer for you. There's a lot of things that I'm enduring, that I'm facing, that I'm learning, that if I take my time and share it with you, you don't have to go through it. You're going to go through something different. You don't have to go through the same things that I go through. And that's my favorite way to learn. Honestly, my favorite way to learn is to pay attention to other people, to celebrities, to moguls, people around me, and be like, okay, what did so-and-so do at this chapter in their life? Did it work? Did it not work? And that's how I learn. And that's my favorite way to learn.
Jay-Z set the blueprint for a lot of rappers.
But you got to go through, their blueprint, understand it, and then maybe you can, if you're smart enough, you can do your own blueprint, because those are the rules of life. At the core, we should, I think, have the same core principles, the same core values, and then we each can add our own flavor, our own touch, our own, spice to how we like to live our lives, how we like to interact with the people in our lives, how we like, the type of people that we want to be, the type of, energy we want to put out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Wow. This is why, even though I'm very rigorous and very disciplined onto the clock, this is one of those things where, we could go on for hours, Clara, like, seriously.
I swear.
But we did good. We did good. I cannot tell you what a thrill it is to have you back on the recording. I know we talk all the time on the Instagrams of the world, but people needed to hear this today. I felt really strongly about putting out the fact that, people need to take 2 seconds to understand that, you're not just here to just go to your job, bring in the paycheck and die. This is very true. You need to celebrate yourself. So much more to you. I am totally about that. You know what? I have a 9 to 5. I have a family. I understand the entire reality, but you can bet your sweet ass that I love myself every single day and I have bigger and better things to do, and if that means stepping out to my own comfort zone and figuring out who the hell I am, that's going to take some time for you as well. And it takes people like you who are in their own light, who are in their own greatness and showing us that, it is possible. Clara, it is with tremendous gratitude that I want to thank you for this wonderful time. If the interwebs, if the listeners would like to connect with you, where can we reach you?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Oldie. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's the first time, and now I know this is happening again. At such a very pivotal moment for myself, I can say. I'm really happy to be here and to share my words. And if anybody wants to reach me, you can follow me on Instagram, mostly at Julie144, or you can follow my YouTube channel, which is Clara, Luce, Lafond. I have a Twitter, and you can probably just look up my name and it'll come up. I don't remember what my username is.
Pretty much, but
what
I'll
else?
definitely link it up. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. So yeah, just if you Google or whatever, Clara, Luce, Lafond, something's not gonna come up.
You're the only one. You're the only one. There aren't too many of you. Hopefully not.
Exactly. Hopefully not. I hope I'm doing something right. So yeah. And I would love to connect with, anybody, who's looking, to connect with themselves, authentically. It doesn't have to be on a voodoo or whatever, anything trip, just authentically, spiritually, etc. Or you just need somebody somebody to talk to, because a lot of
And
times that happens.
as long as we come with respect.
That's it. That's all I ask. Come with respect, come with love, and that's how you will be received. So thank you so much, Odi. I'm really happy to be here, and you are doing a phenomenal job with this podcast, and keep up the amazing work. Amazing.
I appreciate you so much. Well, as you know, we always have the running tradition on the podcast, as we like to call the next step, whether it's a quote, a final word, a thought, with all the shower of gems that you've already dropped. But is there anything that the listeners can wake up tomorrow picking up as a next step towards the next level? Is there anything we can leave them with?
We're awakening. So I can say, like, we're awakening. A lot of us are awakening to something bigger and deeper and more meaningful than what we have been served and taught most of our lives. And if you feel like some of us won't feel that, but if the rare ones that do feel like this is happening to you, dive in, please. Of course, be careful. Make sure you pay attention. You use discernment, whatever, etc. Take your time. Don't, go full head on into anything, but take your time, pay attention, see how you feel about things, and pay attention to yourself, because yourself, your compass, at the end of the day, even when you're not really in balance with yourself, the more you take time with yourself, the more you will start to understand with yourself. So don't rush yourself, don't bully yourself. Take time, pay attention, and always look for what will serve your greatest, what would be the best for you. Don't look for hype, don't look for popularity. Look for wisdom, look for understanding, look for peace of mind. Those are the most valuable things that we can ever acquire and cultivate for ourselves. We can always get diamonds and rubies or whatever. That's okay. But peace of mind and knowledge of self, nobody can give you that. That can't be bought. So I hope you take, patience and love with yourself and do that work with yourself. That's it.
Oh, freaking amazing. My God. I am full, guys. I'm hoping that you will take this wisdom, you will take this time, you will take these words. This has been a really jam-packed episode. Guys, please re-listen to this so many times, because you really need to understand how deeply rooted this greatness is within you. And I hope these few words help you unlock whatever light is, I am sure, just burning inside of you and just waiting to be expressed. So with that, guys, thank you so much for being part of this journey. Clara, Luce, Lafond, you are a gem and a queen, and I thank you for this friendship and wonderful energy. Guys, connect with Clara on the interwebs. I will link all of Clara's web links and social media presences on the blog post once it goes live. Thank you for being part of this program. Thank you for being part of such great supporters. And guys, as always, stay blessed, stay safe. See you at the next episode. And as always, stay awesome. This has been another episode of the Awaken the Awesome podcast. We always love to get your feedback, so please do drop us a line via Instagram, Facebook, or email. Our email address, awakentheawesome@gmail.com. Do visit our official website at awakentheawesome.ca, where you can find our entire back catalog of episodes and incredible guests. Also, if you haven't already, please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, give us a rating, and leave us a review, as this helps us tremendously in growing this podcast and spreading the word to more awesome listeners like you. We always appreciate your support, and thank you for listening. Stay awesome.